So, Michael, I've been looking at this trial. I think it's State of Tennessee versus John Scopes. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, they call that the Scopes Monkey Trial, right?
Yes, sir. What do you know about it? Just trying to learn more.
Well, I know it took place in 1925 in the small town of Dayton, Tennessee. And it got its name because it had to do with the theory of evolution, namely, the descent of man from a common ancestor evolving from monkeys and apes into modern man today.
Right. Apes being our last ancestor.
And with America being a lot more religious back in that day, namely Christian, there was a lot of controversy between the theory of Darwinian evolution and the church.
Right.
Actually, earlier that spring, there was an act called the Butler Act that banned the teaching of Darwinian evolution from public schools.
Really. And is this true that I heard it started off as two businessmen who basically wanted to bring tourism and money to their town that was really declining in a lot of ways? And so they just kind of got John Scopes to teach us in school. That way it would bring tourism.
Well, that might be one interpretation. I think John Scopes already was teaching this, and actually the state of Tennessee mandated that this book about civic biology, was taught in public schools. John Scopes just sort of got caught in the crosshairs of that. But even though the Butler Act banned Darwinian evolution from being taught, the textbook that he was required to use by the state included it, and it was part of the curriculum.
Okay. So then how were they supposed to not teach it?
Well, see, this is where this man called George Rapliak comes in.
Okay.
And he pointed out that contradiction between the law, the Butler Act, and also the mandate from the state to teach Darwinian evolution.
Right. And he's the one that eventually goes to court with John Scott?
He saw the opportunity for this case to make a lot of money and to go public. And he saw it as a good opportunity for the city of Dayton to make money and to help their economy.
Okay.
And so he wanted to spread it wide and to get cameras and the news on it. Even at one point, there was a famous author who was asked to represent the defense in the court, to which the author replied, "No, I have no experience in law." So he rejected it.
And this is the first case to ever be publicly held, right? Like, recorded.
Yeah.
200 plus recorders
This
I
was
read showed up at this case.
Right, this was the first
Live.
widely broadcasted court case. It was on public television, actually, and it remains one of the most famous court cases of American history to this day, maybe even in the world.
Really? So I heard that that it got overturned pretty early on in its time. But who won? What was that?
Well, originally, the defendant, John Scopes, had to pay $100 as a fine, which is equivalent to, I think, around $1,600 in modern cash. And yet even that was overturned.
Right.
And so maybe you'll wonder, what was the point of the whole thing? I mean, what did it come to? Well, if you look at public schools to this day, it's quite the opposite story, where wide-scale Darwinian theory is taught in almost every public school across the United States. It's seen as science and taught as fact.
But it's theory.
It is theory. But a lot of the time, teachers these days don't really underline that part of it.
Right. So, what did we get out of all this? Like, what is the problem with this whole case?
So, essentially, this case served to overturn, to call attention to and overturn the Butler Act, which some people saw as unconstitutional and sort of a roadblock to science being taught in school.
Right.
The ACLU immediately jumped on this. They actually represented John Scopes. They offered to represent anyone who was basically taken to court for teaching this in school. And so they saw this as a juicy opportunity, and they jumped at the idea to represent Scopes.
Right.
Because they saw it as unconstitutional. ACLU stands for the American Civil Liberties Union, and they've long stood for very liberal concepts and have clashed with the church for decades.
Right. So overall, it was a pretty pointless court case.
I wouldn't say pointless. While the court case itself essentially came to nothing, it set a precedent in American culture, in law, and it has changed the way people look at school curriculums and state mandates for education. So, again, to this day, you see a lot of Darwinian theory being taught in schools, and yet not even taught as theory, taught as science, as fact. So it's really served to spread the idea that a literal interpretation of the Bible is sort of goofy and unintellectual, while the theory of evolution as posed by Darwin is scientific, in fact.
Right.